Hello, everyone, and welcome to The Next Perfect Step, where all possibilities lie in conversation. I'm your co-host, Laurie Mullen.
And I'm your co host, Laurie Tremblay. We are energy healers and teachers, and we welcome you to this podcast. We want to hold a safe and comfortable space for open conversations with each other. Thank you for joining us.
And I am your co-host, Kim McStay, and it is my pleasure today to introduce Chuck McStay, and he is the co-founder of Beings on Purpose. Chuck is a dad to 3 grown women and lives happily with his wife and dog. He is one of 4 siblings, and I am lucky enough to be one of those siblings. Chuck has a BS degree in economics, management, and marketing. There are other businesses that he has co-founded. However, Beings on Purpose is the main focus for today's podcast. Being on Purpose is a collaboration of interactions and messages received from an extraterrestrial whom Chuck refers to as brother. Their mission is to encourage and facilitate the rise in global consciousness and humankind's ascension with Gaia into the 5D. Chuck's long history with martial arts practices has laid a foundation for his passion to expand universal love and oneness. Welcome, Chuck, my brother.
Hey, thanks for having me. Yes, so this is a real treat for me. Thank you all for inviting me, and especially on behalf of the collaborative that created Beings on Purpose. I appreciate all of you, and I love your broadcast. It's that primitive art of storytelling through conversation that has kind of been lost, and you guys are bringing it back, and it's just beautiful. So thanks for having me along.
Thank you. So let's start off by just explaining, where, when, and where brother came into your life.
Yeah. So brother is an off-world entity. He's been with me all my life. My earliest memory was of a vision of a silhouette of a male body, and there was all kinds of energy extending out from him, and I could bring it up anytime I wanted. It was always before I went to sleep and when I woke up, but walking through the day anytime I wanted to. Many times in classrooms, I'd be somewhere else and it was there. And brother was just present and probably communicating, but was I listening? Probably not. So he decided to visit me when I was ready. And that took a lot of deep dives, a lot of meditation and preparation to be prepared for that interaction, because it's telepathic. And he asked me to do this project, Beings on Purpose, specifically to help, through example, others to discover their own sense of love over fear, and raise their own consciousness and be part of global consciousness and the ascension that brings with it, so that humankind could retune with Gaia and become more in tune with the harmonics of Gaia and how we are so connected on so many levels. And she's on her way to 5D. We're sitting around in 3D with the meat suit of 3D. And all we need to do is move beyond that and become more full and complete as ourselves. And that's all that I'm doing, is just presenting that. And the Beings on Purpose part, every time you go out and look at that, wherever you see whatever I've created on a website or any publications, X, you'll see that Beings on Purpose has a tagline, which is where the beings on purpose are you, because this is not about me, this is through me. And it's through me as a gift from off-world entities that are collectively and collaboratively offering their guidance. And I just happen to be one of millions of messengers. And so it's a wonderful community. So join us.
Could you explain when you saw him in your bed 3 years ago, like the holograph part of it? I find that fascinating.
Sure. Yeah. So the way that this was all kind of, when I was awakened to it myself, I was sound asleep in my bed, and and just for my wife's sake, I'll just say that she happened to be in New York City with our kids. So I was alone, and I was awakened in the middle of the night, sat up, stared right at him, and it was an energetic silhouette, not a silhouette, it was an energetic representation of him in a hologram form. And telepathically, he communicated to me that I was on the right path, just keep going, and that he was working with me. And then, as often I do over the past 15 years, I went to my other sister, Lynn, who's one of the most clear channels I've ever worked with out of the 15 or more that I've been working with. She told me that it was brother, and he identified himself as brother, that we've worked together on other missions before elsewhere in the universe. And this one is a real important one because of the timing of it. And that's very important for all of us to understand the importance of our being here now, because we've chosen to be here now. And this is an important mission to follow through with. And Bashar pointed out that there's the eye of a needle, and the eye of a needle is a dimensional shift where we have a choice as we raise our own sense of awareness that helps us to ascend, and that consciousness within us, then collectively, because consciousness is all life and creation is energy, we're all connected as one. There's no separation whatsoever except what we're told is separate. And if we believe it, then we are separate. So we end up creating this pool of energy that can change the shift of the dimensions. And there's also another geophysical dimension, which is Gaia. So Gaia is going through one herself. It's on a 12,000-year cycle, and it's a cleansing process because of the energy that's been manipulated by the collaboration of on and off world entities that are not in humankind's best interest. So strap on your love over fear bonnet and let's go get to work and get this process taken care of for Gaia.
Well, that's my question for you. So as brothers come through with this message, what is the message to us? Like, what is it that we can be doing right now what is it that they feel is the most important for us to be doing? I'm trying to elaborate this question, but you know, what are the things that can be helping us right now that we can do to get where I don't want to say where we're supposed to be. What are their suggestions for us right now?
Yeah, and very important, very pointed. And so I'll always refer to my website because there are, and there's a free download. Everything, by the way, I do is for free. It's because I'm self-funded, and we just want to expand as much as we can. There's a booklet, and it's pretty close to the last page, where you can download the booklet, and it goes through those steps. But I'll give a synopsis of it now. So what we need to do is to choose love over fear. And that process, fear is designed into us from birth, and it's implanted in our DNA for generations. So there's part of the energetic part of us that's directly connected with our higher self, and therefore connected with source all the time. And then there's that learned part, that's the 3D part of humankind. And so what we're looking to do is realize that, number one, we have a matrix that we've allowed, that's been constructed by others, a combination of that collaboration of the bad guys, 4D bad guys off-world with 3D bad guys on-world. And they collaboratively create a narrative and a series of narratives through institutional, pretty much controlling the institutions, so that they create narratives that we begin to believe because we're born with them generationally. It's not just this narrative or that narrative, it's a building of narratives, and we create our own cage, which we believe to be true. And it takes us away from our natural energetic connection with Gaia and Source. So by realizing that you have a cage that you've created around yourself, we call the matrix, you can then move out of that fear mode into love. Once you start doing that, you start realizing, okay, now I can actually love myself. So that's the next step. First one is get rid of your matrix. And then the next step is love yourself. There's a process that I've used that I recommend because it's worked real well for me. And by the way, a lot of the folks, I'm sure your listeners and regular viewers are probably already well past this anyway, but call it the law of the human condition. And it's very basic. So we all want to feel loved as a human. We all want to feel accepted. And we all want to feel worthy of that love and acceptance. The issue is that we've been diverted through these narratives to think that we get those things from outside of ourselves. The truth is, we have to love ourselves. So we want to feel loved and accepted and worthy of that love and acceptance by ourselves, for ourselves. Once we hit that point, now we get to a point of near neutrality. Now we're going to apply that to a principle called 100-100. And it was told to me long ago that relationships are not 50-50. They are 100-100. So if you think about that, it's a position of neutrality. When you respect your own sovereignty and then offer that respect to everyone else and everything else's sovereignty, you then become neutral as an entity that coexists. And if you want to break that down to a scientific level, we can go right down to the atom. So an atom doesn't exist alone. It exists as a pair, and what's between it is light. It's white light, and it's that energetic connection. And if one atom is outsized to another one that's smaller, it's imbalanced, and so it's not neutral. So right from the very foundation of energetic construct, we are built of the same thing. And so what we want to do is get to a neutral position. When it comes to producing energy, many of your listeners may have already heard of 0-point energy. Well, that's the same place we all want to get to. So all of these things are related in how we construct our own reality. And what we want to do is offer respect, gain trust, and move through away from the fear concept into love. And then we become unconditional love. And so all of unconditional love, the atoms with the light, neutrality, and everything is connected, and it all goes back to the same point of 0-point energy. So that's what we do. That's how we do it. And then and then one last thing is, we're not telling people what to do. We're becoming that ourselves so that we are an example for those who may choose to notice. And one thing that's really cool about energy is that you resonate. And so a different personality, a different message resonates with that person, this person. So what I'm saying is just one interpretation, and my energy may resonate with some and not with others. So find what resonates, what works for you. Once you resonate with something that works, then go with that. And that's how we can expand it even faster, because when two entities resonate, it creates a harmony. And harmony, by its nature, when you have more than one, it amplifies. And so just by walking through life as a 0-point or a neutral, what you're doing is people notice and feel. They don't even know it, but they start to feel. And that's the beginning of your mission on this planet, is just to be unconditional love so that people feel and notice it. So that's that.
That was very well said, Chuck. That was very, very well said. I agree with especially the part about the fear being programmed into us through institutions and things. And my guidance and other, guides that I've heard, everyone is saying, don't fear. That's not real. And then just to go for love, because yesterday, for example, I met a wonderful young man. He was special needs, and I just went up to him. His mother was sitting by him, and I said hello, and he stopped eating his lunch, and he just took both of my hands and put them by his face, and all I could feel was pure love. And it went, I've never felt that from another human being, like so pure. And so that was a beautiful lesson, just to know that that's what we're going into, and spreading that light, like you said, and everybody can feel it. And that just made me, I can still feel the results today. It was just incredible. So it was a blessing to meet him.
Yeah, it's a great feeling.
Yeah.
And we don't need to storm through the streets with signs
Right.
and yell and hate somebody else. We can just be unconditional love, and that resonates. And then all of a sudden, they start on their own path. And so there's nothing really special about it. We all have that. And the collaborative that I have that helps me understand these things, like the creation of life and how source we're all connected, we all have that. It's not special to me. In fact, it's very pedestrian once we allow it to work through us for others to notice, if they happen to notice.
Yeah,
And
I love what you
Go ahead, Laurie.
I love what you just said. I just had this conversation the other day about how if you're not doing anything, you're part of the problem. And I tried to say, like, no, me keeping my own inner peace and not paying attention to all of that is actually helping more than shouting and yelling and arguing with people or trying to change people's minds. Like my own inner peace and not putting energy into any of this stuff is actually helping more. Not sure that, how it resonates with most people, but I truly believe that in my heart. Truly, truly, truly. I'm not putting my head in the sand. I'm creating it in the world by creating it within me.
Yeah, there are a pile of institutions that have been created, especially here in the U.S., that have created an art form called color revolution. And they go around the world and they create chaos. And it's specifically to pit one against another. Divide and conquer is the strategy. And so if we fall into that, so one of the ways we can get rid of our own matrix is that we understand this construct and that we keep ourselves from reacting. So there's four main controls. One is that anytime you control food, you can control people. And there are major institutions that are designed all around the globe that do that. And if they don't control the growth of it, they control the distribution of it. And then there's energy. Tremendous, that's like one of the biggest ones. And then, so you have food, energy, and then you have money. And then there's a central control of money throughout the globe, which is part of that. So the one thing that makes it easy for those three things to be controlled with each individual is the fourth, and it's the most important. And it's our reaction emotionally to these types of narratives that are created to specifically divide and conquer us. So that cage is allowed by us. I don't blame those creating it because it's very effective on their behalf. I say for myself, what do? I become aware of it. The more awareness I have, the more energetic I feel, the more neutral I become, and the closer I get to 4D, and then 5D, and the more harmonic I feel. Gaia has come in since I helped myself really be that, because I used to be one of those that would watch the TV and listen to news and say, "No, you're nuts. What are you, crazy? You can't think like that." But it's just destructive to oneself, and it's and one last thing too about the law of human condition, where the worthiness part. When you look for worthiness outside, you're trying to fill a void that you've created because you're looking for it outside. And by nature, a void, if you look it up in a dictionary, it can never be filled. It's a void. It's always a void. What you need to do is eliminate it. Just make it go away. And that's through awareness.
And I'm glad you brought that up, because the searching outside ourselves to find what works for us never works, because that, like you said, it's a void that you can't fill. But the minute that you center and align yourself with the peace that you have within yourself, all of a sudden everything that is happening in the world no longer affects you. And the reaction that you were talking about, the emotional reaction, really doesn't exist. It's more of a curiosity. You can look at situations and say, wow, I'm curious about that. Like, why is that person freaking out? Or why is this? Or why is that? And it really,
Almost knocked it over.
That wouldn't be the first time. But,
Bloopers.
Bloopers, that's right. But I think it's so important to not always be searching for the cure-all and to find it.
Yeah. And most of the fillers to that void usually ends up in self-destruction because you're looking for crazy relationships. And you get into all kinds of messes. And relationships can be with things that you do, things that you consume, and things that you believe. And it just takes you askew. And it's all by design because it's well studied. It's amazing what's out there. And I know a lot of this because I used to be a sales guy. And they teach you how to manipulate. And it's horrible.
Here, let me get you a glass of water. Could you get me a glass of water? That was a sales trick. Yeah, I know. I've been down that road too.
Yeah, yeah. And we all have that wonderful capability within us because we are a soul entity. And we grew up in Christian Science. And the one thing and I'm not a practicing Christian Science, but the one thing that really stayed with both of us, we were discussing last night, was that whole concept of bypassing all of the gatekeepers to source or God, if you wish. And that is a very important thing to acknowledge, is that you have a direct connection to source energetically as your soul was created by source. And by the way,
and we are source.
But do you know that what my collaborative has told me about our creation is that we are co-creators. We are created by source to be co-creators. And one of the ways that we co-create as our soul entity, which is born in perfection, is to subdivide all of those, that one soul into multiple souls to go on missions. And that's kind of what we represent at this point. And co-creation to do what? Is to expand the universe through thought and action. And it's the purity of love over fear that expands it in the right way so that we can all live in harmony. And so I was just delighted to find that out. And I was giddy, bouncing through life for weeks after that.
Yeah, I absolutely love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, isn't that cool? It's just the coolest thing. Once you really feel that, you're fully connected all the time.
And that takes the fear out too, because you're not afraid of dying, because you know your soul is just here for this purpose, and it's never going to be completely,
right.
Energy can't be destroyed, or so it makes, for me anyway, that makes me so much less fearful about any chaos that's happening, because I have my sovereignty.
Yeah,
so.
And I had an experience right after I was helped to gain that knowledge, because I don't channel. I'm more of a collaborative kind of. It's called the knowing, and so I know things that I shouldn't. Right? How do you find these things out? So they just let me know because they can trust me to deliver that in such a way that it's not telling but inviting, and that's very important because again, it's about the law, the universal law of non-intervention, which is just back to neutrality and 0 point, and so it all works together. And not long after that, I was awoken again. Brother came in, and this time he started transforming from the energetic kind of field to the actual tall white. And I had a little bit too much sake that night, and so he saw. He said, "Okay, you've seen enough." That's kind of funny. And then about 3 weeks later, Archangel Ariel put a wolf in front of me. So I woke up and there's this wolf sitting next to me, just sitting, looking at me. The detail, it was alive, and it just wasn't moving. And so I just sat up, and that's so cool, and trying to listen to who sent that. And I found out it was Archangel Ariel, and he just wanted me to include in what I talk about when we talk about harmonizing and that full universal respect, include animals, trees, and the air in between. And once I started to feel and understand that message, the wolf started to just recede away from me and then began to turn into all kinds of different animals, down to the very smallest. And then that was the end of that. So just wonderful things can happen when you go to neutral. I feel all aglow.
I love that. That's great. It is so true that we're connected with everything, animals and the
Yep.
trees. And I think lately I've been kind of experiencing some shifts in the reality. Like I get in my car and I'm driving my car. I'm like, is this my car? You know, I'm like, what? It's like, so I don't know, but it's good. I feel like that we're getting communications from so many different that we're surrounded by so much and so much love and compassion and help. And I was going to ask if you have any messages that brother would like to share, maybe with the listeners, or that you think would be appropriate to share.
Yeah, so not just God brother, but a lot. Tremendously grateful. They are so grateful that so many of us are paying attention, especially at this time. And there are things happening on a global basis that when we feel that divide with others, we miss the real opportunity to understand what's unfolding in front of us. And the few controlling the many is beginning to be dissolved and shift. And that is going to happen if we allow it within ourselves. So keep up with that same practice. And all three of you, with your intuitive healing arts, is just when you just walk through the grocery store, you are helping folks feel better connected to their own selves. You don't have to say anything, you're just being. It makes a big difference. And the more we feel confident in that, the bigger the expanse becomes. And as that expanse becomes a certain width or encompassing more and more folks, they in turn wake up more and more and begin to ascend as well. Because what you're experiencing is that dimension shift in yourself. And that's where all the dimension shifts, all the shifts happen. It's within each one of us. And we just happen to work together harmonically. So good on you, as they say.
And Laurie T, like, you know, that boy wouldn't have held his hands to your face if he didn't feel your healing energy.
Yes.
So that was like, that's probably why it felt so unconditional, is because it was that 100, you know, like you just were both totally present, which almost, you know, you kind of made me cry during that one, by the way. That's pretty remarkable.
Very,
Yeah,
very cool stuff.
that's pretty amazing.
And also a reminder that I'll try to get this right. Go ahead and talk, because I have to just pay attention for a minute.
Who's up?
Yeah, yeah. Laurie M., what do you have to say?
Well, no, I was just going to say that back to Laurie, like that was something you said, that we're going to start two amplifiers together, right? So you two came together and you definitely amplified love. I mean, Laurie, there's nobody I've known that has more of a big heart and as loving energy as you do. So it must have been nice to feel what we feel from you, from somebody else. And I just can't even imagine how the two of you affected the entire room, and maybe your entire town, or the world. I can see that, you know, and that's beautiful. So I'm glad you got to experience what we experienced from you.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you. That's very kind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What they wanted me to mention was, is that embrace the unknown mentor, because pretty much everything that you experience is an opportunity to absorb into your own consciousness, and because it's collective and connected, and we don't want to separate, we want to allow. And so we meet the animal that walks up to us. You met that boy anything can be a mentor, become a mentorship. So be aware, and the more you feel that and respond to it openly, the more it happens. And that's why I call what I do a collaborative, because once I'm ready, something gets slid in front of me, and okay, another rabbit hole. Now I understand even more.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that that's something we've talked about here on our show many times within the last year, is how mentors and teachers are changing, right? We're changing that dynamic. It's no longer the person with the most videos and the most books and the most prominent out there teaching us something, right? That now teachers come from all over. It's animals. It's the person that we meet in the grocery store. It's it's all different kinds of things that we've now opened up, that, we talk about the eagle's vision. We've opened that up to see that it's coming from all directions, even from the smallest, littlest encounter with something, that there's a teaching in there, and to be open to all of it. So I love that. That's just beautiful. I think that, yeah, we've been seeing that more and more. And I love to hear that is actually the way we're going. I just find it more authentic than the one person up there shouting all this phrases and stuff like that. And so that makes my heart happy.
Yeah, beware of the telling, it's the invitation.
Yeah.
We all have that knowledge within us anyway. And
yeah, it just needs to be remembered. Yeah,
right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I feel like when we're sorry, I can't talk. When we're in that field of resonance, I think that things are drawn to us, right? That are like draws like you said, Chuck, it attracts like. So you get those experiences, and you get those mentors, and you get those animals, and the joy and all of that you're resonating with in the field, which is your field, and in resonating with others.
Yeah.
So I think that's what my point is. It's drawn to you, and you get to experience that joy and delight. Like your experience with the wolf must have been amazing. That would be wonderful. So
it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah.
Well, I think that also goes with our worthiness, right? Is that we have to, when we feel worthy inside of us, we can realize that whatever we bump into somebody, that we have something of value, that everybody has something of value to teach somebody else. And that valuing ourselves also values the tree or the wolf or whoever, that I know that they can come teach me something. And we're not trying to place ourselves in these hierarchy, like this person's ahead of me, or this person, or this thing, or I'm not worthy of the wolf coming to tell me a message. That when we find worthiness, we open ourselves up to all those teachers.
Mistrust and violence, even if it's just with words and energy, it doesn't work. It's what we've been trained to proliferate as a divide and conquer strategy.
Yeah, that's very, very, very true. Yeah.
And I love the silent moment.
It's the wind beneath, in between the trees. And I was thinking about that with the notes in between the music, that space in between the notes, and I know he might not bring this up, but and walking with the, what do you refer to it as? Walking with the wind?
Yeah.
Which I'm going to make him come up and do a whole thing with us on this. I'm excited.
Now I have to practice. So right out of college, I went up to Vermont to live for a while with a couple of friends. And in fact, one of my real strong mentors, second year in college, Glenn Gurman. And he's an amazing guy, self-taught with everything. And he went down to Jersey to study from a guy named Tom Brown, who was the tracker. And he wrote a couple books, and he was taught by an Apache Indian. And so we're living in a log cabin with about 30 acres, and then there were 7,000 acres behind us in state forest. So we spent a lot of time applying the Tom Brown tracker method, which was walking with the wind. And part of that is, and I'll just describe it to you, as you extend your foot out first, not as leaning over your foot, but extend your foot out first with your pinky, your small toe as the lead. And then you take the outer edge of that foot and you press that down first and then roll to the flat. And you do that. And it was funny, I studied from a woman called Mako Sim, who was Bagua. And you had a Feng Shui teacher talking about Bagua. And I studied the martial arts version of that. And she had the same step. It's called Wushu. And she did the same step in this Bagua training. It was kind of a nice reminder. But what you would do is you would listen to everything around you. Every sound could cover whatever was underfoot. And it was just a great way to move through the woods without a sound. Even though you were making sound, you were masking it with things around you. Like at one point oftentimes we had a crow that would walk with us. And it would fly from one tree, head out in front of us and wait. And then we'd get to the crow and then the crow would fly on ahead of us and wait. And so there was really a cool experience when you allow yourself to be connected to all things by listening, by quieting, and still moving. It's a moving meditation. It was great.
Which is right up my alley. And I just have to tell this very quick story that Glenn, who he was talking about, spent, I don't know, a couple of days working on a ceremonial candle, a butter candle. And I came up to visit. And I had this Doberman that I was trying to find a home for that I had rescued from a pound. And we walked into the house and the dog went right over and ate that ceremonial candle. And Glenn never forgave me for that.
It was ghee. It was made of the skimming. You skim all the fat off and you keep the ghee.
Yeah, it was a process.
Put a wick in
yeah.
Yeah.
And he made me very aware of that process.
Yeah, no, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, that was a fun time in our lives when, he was so into the martial arts and all this stuff that he was so much fun to go visit and learn all kinds of good stuff.
Yeah, you never know what you're going to learn next. I was very lucky, very privileged. Talk about mentors. Just again, it was, I would be introduced to these amazing people and I would just hang. All through college, ended up becoming the teacher's roommate. And then after that, moved to Vermont, discovered a teacher in Boston. We used to travel 3 hours each way, twice a week, just to go and learn Tai Chi, the original Yang style, not the original, but the 108 movement Tai Chi. And it took so long, took 13 months. So after 6 months, I decided to move back home and cut my travel time by a third, into a third. That was just amazing mentors all through my life. They appear when you're open.
Well, and I think that's it too. It's that openness to receiving, because, I get stuck with that sometimes, that, I might be able to manifest something, but I'm not in that position to receive it yet. Mm-hmm. And that openness to receive, and, with all your mentors and people that you've come across, you've been very in that receiving mindset.
Well, I'll give you one more example. And this is my favorite all time. If anyone was alive long enough, Laurie, to remember Hands Across America?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
1986. Yeah. So no phones, I don't know how I even found out about it. I think it was a Pepsi commercial was talking about it because they were sponsoring. There were, everybody grasped hands from coast to coast, but there were a lot of places that didn't do that because there just were no population and great expanses. Plus, there were not favorable circumstances like desert. So I don't know how I found it. I researched and I found out that there were missing places. Well, after having read a book about the Hopi Indian, they were called Hopi Indians, not in the book. So I read about the Hopi Nation. That's what the book was. And I said, okay, I'm going to go stand with the Hopi Nation. And so I went to this place on the corner of Winslow, Arizona, which reminds us of a line out of a song. I was there. And so I flew in drove out, rented a Camaro. That was really fun. And went to Winslow, Arizona, and a bunch of us were starting to gather. And I ended up meeting I think they were called the Chancellor of the Nation and his wife.
Oh, wow.
And so I stood between the two of them. And there were probably about 30 people there. And there was one guy from Alaska, and there was media there. It was like kind of a crazy thing. And then after that was done, I decided I wanted to go to the Hopi Nation. And it was the crossroads, that corner. If you take a right, you go into the little town of Winslow, and you take a left, and it's a 3-hour drive to Mesa One. So I just went, and I drove, and about a half hour in, I see this guy walking along the side of the road. So I pull over and I say, "Hey, want to ride?" He said, "Yeah, thank you." So he gets in the car, and we had about a 30-second moment of silence, and then we started talking. Then it turns out he's the grandson of the last remaining, I'm sorry, what do they call him? I'm having a senior moment. See the gray hair? Medicine man, the last remaining medicine man of the Hopi Nation. And there's a whole reason behind the last remaining. So we were going to visit this man. And so this guy, I don't remember his name. So we drove out, we parked at the bottom of the mesa because the car's not allowed. And we walked up Mesa One, and we went to this rock siding, and there was a window carved into the rock and a door carved into the rock. 2 knocks, he opens the door, and there's the medicine man. We walked in, and I sat down. We sat down, all 3 of us, in the living room or whatever it was. I think there were 2 rooms. And we just sat in silence. And it felt like an hour. It probably was 15 minutes, but it was a long time. And then they started speaking in their native tongue. And that was about 5 or so minutes. It was very brief. And then we got up, and we looked each other in the eye, and we nodded, and then we walked out. And it was the most incredible quietude experience that I've ever had. And when I got outside, he said, "I just wanted to tell you that my grandfather said, you're a real human being." And that's like the most beautiful thing I've ever heard.
I remember you telling me that story, a long, long time ago. And yeah, that's like the best compliment you can get, is to be called a real human being.
Yeah.
He saw your heart. Yeah, did.
Yeah, I got chills with that story.
Yeah.
He's that emotional response person.
I call it
which
quantum,
I love.
I call it quantum entanglement.
Yeah.
And that's really what it is.
That's true.
When you have people reacting to something and with their heart, and everything is connected, but there's a harmonization with that particular feel because it's unique. It's a unique signature. And so when you tap into that same feel, it's overwhelming. And it just happens to me all the time. I watch commercials and it's like, oh my God. Just ask my family. It's embarrassing.
I love it. I think it's great.
Oh, which brings me to another thing that's very seldom really mentioned and dealt with. So I was born into a family of 3 women and a mother. And now I have 3 daughters and a wife. And it was really important for me to do that because in this masculine dominated world, it's an imbalance. It's like those 2 atoms, and one is oversized and the other one is too small. What they need to be is equally 100-100 in order to be neutral. And that's another thing that this dimensional shift is for those who become more neutral in everything, which includes that. And we can all attest to witnessing centuries, not just centuries, millenniums of imbalance with that dominant masculine energy screwing things up all over the place. So we have to get back to neutrality on all levels. And I just want to mention that too.
I 100% agree with that. And that's a good message to get out, is that balance between the divine feminine.
It's no less important than absolutely everything else.
It's really important. Wow.
I feel good. It's been a good
Feel
session.
wonderful. It's such a joy to have you on our podcast.
I'd like to have him come back at
I-
one point and talk about the financial. He's brilliant with the financial aspects,
That's
but
what you had said.
it doesn't really flow in with how, this has happened. So if it's all right with you ladies, I would like to have you come back.
I'd be delighted.
And
Absolutely.
because that's a whole podcast in itself. Speaking to him last night and having him here, it's just, I've always loved his brain anyway, and we were super close when we were young, and then of course everybody goes on their separate path, and we were talking about how we're all becoming united again in the sibling group.
We never skipped a beat.
Yeah, it's true. We didn't ever skip a beat. But, he's done so much research and, his expansiveness on what's coming in the future. It's near, like super near future.
It's underway.
With the financial aspect of it. And I would love to have him come and, really expand on that with us, because I think that's important information for a lot of people like myself who really I don't give a crap about the financial end of life, but I need to, because it is part of where we're at in this three-dimensional plane. So I would love to have him come back.
And since the early 80s, Saint Germain has been working with me on that.
And what did you tell me brother said when you talked to him about that?
Yeah. Brother's like, I don't get the whole financial thing, so you'll have to talk to Saint Germain.
He skipped out on any kind of conversation with that. I love that.
And then, by the way, Saint Germain is a hoot. he's like the jester. He's fun. So yeah, a lot of fun.
All right. So anything else you would like to add on a closing statement?
No, other than just it's so natural being here with the three of you. Very, very natural. I really appreciate it. It gives me a chance to vent because I'm, rather than in my own silo. I have to get out here. So thank you. Appreciate it very much. And love the work that you're doing.
Well, I want to say thank you to you. It's just been a joy and a pleasure, and I'm just going to probably smile most of the day from this conversation. It's really nice to meet you, and we'd love to have you come back. Yes, please.
Anytime. I have the time now.
I feel the same way. Just I feel smiley from the inside out.
Oh, great. That's awesome.
So if you've liked this conversation as much as we have, please like, share, and subscribe. And until next time, how is your intuition leading you to the next perfect step?